We have news coming in of the world's strongest earthquakes that struck Russia's far east early this morning. An 8.8 magnitude earthquake that set off a tsunami warning in the northern Pacific region and prompted warnings for Alaska, Hawaii and south towards New Zealand as well. Now, tsunami warning sirens have been blaring in most parts, and people have moved to higher ground. The Japan Meteorological Agency has said that a first tsunami wave of about 30 centimeters, about a foot, reached the eastern coast, and the damage and evacuations were reported in the Russian regions nearest the quake's epicenter. And this is the first tsunami wave hit the coastal area, the main settlement on Russia's islands in the Pacific, according to the local governor. He went on to say that residents were safe and staying on high ground until the threat of a repeat wave was gone. And to know more on this, we have my colleague Arjun joining us. Arjun, this is the strongest earthquake that's been felt in recent times. We're talking about 8.8 on the Richter scale. What does that really mean? And given the fact that it's triggered tsunami warnings, and the first of that we have seen already, take us through exactly which are the areas of concern. And, particularly for people, this is the summer season, people are also traveling. Give us a sense of the areas to avoid.
So we're getting the latest visuals that are circulating on online platforms. This is Russia's Kuril Islands. It's located on the far east coast, and it shows the first waves, in fact, washing ashore on the Severo Kurils, accompanied by alarms and, of course, urgent public broadcasts and panic. Now, the Kuril Islands, for perspective, are volcanic. It's a volcanic archipelago in the northern Pacific Ocean. It stretches from the tip of Japan's Hokkaido to Russia's Kamchatka Peninsula. That's where 125 kilometers off the coast of which is the epicenter of this 8.7 magnitude earthquake, of which we'll get you more details. But these islands, the Kuril Islands, are in fact a part of a geologically active area, also known as the Pacific Ring of Fire, and are in fact a disputed territory between Russia and Japan. The next visuals are from Hokkaido Islands, which are in fact connected to Russia through these parallel islands that we were just talking about. Now, the quake was about 250 kilometers away from Hokkaido. These are the visuals from Japan's Hokkaido, from the coast of Japan's Hokkaido. You can see massive 30-meter waves rising all around here on the left-hand side of our screens here. Now, Hokkaido is in the northernmost part of the country's 4 big islands, and till now, the tremors of the earthquake were felt as far as Hokkaido, but they were light in comparison to other parts closer to the epicenter. Now, Japan is also part of an area now known as the Pacific Ring of Fire that I was discussing, which stretches all the way from Russia's Kuril Islands, the video we just showed you before this, all the way to Hokkaido. Now, earlier in July, for our viewers' benefit, 5 powerful earthquakes, the largest with, in fact, a magnitude of 7.4, struck in the same area near the Kamchatka archipelago. Now we have an interactive map lined up for you, which actually shows you the very epicenter and its distance from the Kamchatka plateau. Right here, this is the epicenter. If my team could zoom in on this, there we go, right there. Now, this is the epicenter of the 8.7 magnitude earthquake. It occurred around 125 kilometers southeast of the Petropavlovsk-Kamchatsky. Now, there you see, that's the capital of the Kamchatka archipelago. Now, the quake occurred at a shallow depth of approx 19 kilometers, 125 kilometers southwest of the Kamchatka plateau. Now, why is this important? Now, this is important because this is the place where the Pacific plate actually subducts beneath the North American plate. Now, it is a region known for high volcanic activity. If my team could zoom in and show the bigger region on the right, so we can show you all the areas which are in fact being placed under tsunami alert. There you go. If my team could we could zoom out a little bit more on this. There we go. Now, multiple tsunami alerts have also been triggered along the Pacific, the larger Pacific region. Once again, if we could zoom out a little bit, there you go. There you see it. All the way up to the west coast of the United States, you move a little above in Alaska, even Canada, and down south in New Zealand, all the way till New Zealand, there have been multiple tsunami alerts which have triggered across the Pacific. Now, this also includes, as we said, Russia, Japan, Alaska, Hawaii, now Canada and the US West Coast. Now, meanwhile, agencies like the Pacific Tsunami Warning Center, the USGS, the United States Geological Survey, which in fact has shared these interactive visuals with us that we are bringing to you right now, continue to monitor this situation. And of course, we here at NDTV will keep on getting you the latest as and when things develop. Back to you.
Right. Thank you so much, Arjun, for getting us all those details. And in order to know more on this, let's just get you a sense of how bad the situation on the ground is. What does this really mean? Which are the areas of concern? And to know more on this, we have Matthew Kapichu joining us in order to get us more on this. Thank you so much, Matthew, for speaking with us here early this morning in India. What do we know about the earthquake so far? Is it one of the strongest earthquakes ever? From what we're hearing, is it's to the tune of 8.8 on the Richter scale.
Yeah, so this is the sixth largest earthquake on record. It's also the biggest since the March 11, 2011 earthquake in Japan. It had a magnitude of 8.8, which is essentially the equivalent of releasing 1 trillion pounds or 1 trillion kilograms of TNT explosive. It's incredibly powerful. And that was essentially a thrust quake, meaning the Pacific plate subducted or went beneath the Okhotsk plate. And so if you're on Russia's Kamchatka Peninsula, you got an enormous shake, but at the same time that displacement to the seafloor sent a shockwave of sorts through the ocean, traveling at speeds over 800 kilometers per hour. And once that shockwave in the ocean reaches the coast, it will displace water and potentially trigger a significant tsunami.
Senior meteorologist joining us, of course, from Washington. Matthew, a lot of tsunami warnings have been issued across the Pacific region. How big are the chances that an event like that could happen?
Yeah, I think on the U.S. West Coast, we could see tsunami perhaps 1 to 2 meters, which is still enough to cause damage at marinas, docks, piers, etc., and be a problem for mariners who have ships or boats parked there. I think the other thing, too, to remember is that we don't necessarily know the magnitude of a tsunami until that energy reaches the coast and is kind of bottled up as the seafloor slopes up to meet the continental shelf and ultimately the beaches. The other thing, too, we have a similar earthquake that occurred back on November 5th, 1952. It was a magnitude 9.0, and it occurred in basically the same exact spot. And it triggered a Pacific-wide tsunami. So we had a past event very similar to this one. We know what happened last time, and something similar could happen this time.
Well, also, Matthew, in the next few hours, what are the priority things that the authorities are going to be looking at in order to save lives and property? What is it that one needs to do in such a situation?
I think at this point it's about sending out emergency alerts and having folks try to evacuate vertically if they live within a few meters of the coastline. The other thing, too, we're still trying to gather data. Because we don't necessarily know how the tsunami will manifest until the energy reaches the coastline, we don't know yet, how bad it's been until it actually gets to the coast. And so for that reason, once it hits the Alaskan Aleutians and Hawaii, we'll have better information about the intensity of it. And so by the time it reaches the U.S. West Coast and British Columbia and Canada, we should know much more information.
Right, Matthew, in your opinion, would you say there's a rising trend when it comes to the number of earthquakes that could perhaps lead to tsunami warnings?
We've had earthquakes and tsunamis since the beginning of time. We've had them long before humans were here, and we'll have them long after humans. This plate is moving west at about 77 millimeters per year, and all that pent-up stress as you crunch the Earth's crust together will release stress at random times, and unfortunately that happened tonight.
Right. Thank you so much, Matthew, for joining us early this morning. It's late for you in Washington. Thank you for getting us all the details. Let's just, play out visuals for coming to you straight from the site. This is, of course, a tsunami warning that has been triggered because of that very powerful earthquake that struck Russia early this morning. 8.8 on the Richter scale. The 8.8 magnitude earthquake has triggered tsunami warnings. There are sirens that are blaring in the area, a word of caution, and this is to all the Hawaiian islands, and those are all under threat. That is what we're hearing from authorities at the moment. So this is the situation on the ground. Let's listen in to the sirens blaring and the kind of warnings that are being put out.
求されました。海岸付近の方は高台に避難してください。こちらは防災ポイントです。
Tsunami warning sirens are blaring in Japan as well as Russia from Honolulu. We're talking about Alaska as well as the Hawaiian Islands, where there is this warning that has been put out, and these are visuals from the coastline of Japan. There you can see the kind of waves that are crashing. Well, this is the situation on the ground, all because of the earthquake that jolted Russia early this morning. 8.8 on the Richter scale is the magnitude of that earthquake that has sounded off this tsunami alert in adjoining areas. So the Japan Met Office has said that the first tsunami wave of about 30 meters, about 1 foot, reached Nimuro on the eastern coast of Hokkaido. This is, the damage and evacuations are being reported in the Russian regions nearest the quake's epicenter. But the first tsunami wave hit the coastal area. We're talking about the main settlement on the Russia's Kuril Islands in the Pacific. According to the local governor, he said that the residents were safe and they're staying on high ground until the threat of a repeat wave was gone. The tsunami warning center has said that the wave of 1 to 3 meters above tide levels was possible along some of the coastal areas, whether it's Hawaii, whether it's Chile, whether it's Japan, and other areas, adjoining areas as well. So we're talking about waves of more than 3 meters were possible along some coastal areas of Russia. Now, the Pacific Warning Center has also gone on to say, this is the Pacific Tsunami Warning Center, that a tsunami has been generated by the quake that could cause damage along the coastline of all Hawaiian Islands. The tsunami watch was in effect alongside the US West Coast. So this is the kind of damage that we are expecting. Of course, authorities, those are drone visuals that you can see of people standing on higher ground, and they are in fact stranded there, as you can see, abandoning their vehicles, standing on higher ground, people rushing to the roofs of buildings in order to stay safe, and that is because of the warnings that have been put out by the authorities. These are, precautionary measures that are in place at the moment. From what we are hearing is that this could trigger off more tsunamis, and the first wave has already been reported to the tune of 1 foot, and this is people in Japan there, taking all kind of precautions. They're all, they've reached higher ground, and there you can see this particular building. We're getting you drone shots of people reaching the highest level, the roof of that building, in order to ensure that they are safe. That is the kind of warnings that are being put out. We're talking about the quake that struck 8:25 in the morning Japan time, and a preliminary magnitude of 8. Japan and US, the authorities are saying that they've updated that threat to 8.8 magnitude, and the quake that occurred at a depth of 20.7 kilometers, which is about 13 miles. The quake was about 119 kilometers. That's about 74 miles away from the Russian city. We're talking of Kamchatsky, which has a population of about 180,000. So from what we are hearing is that the people ran out on the streets without shoes or even wearing their clothes. Cabinets toppled inside homes, and mirrors were broken. Cars swayed in the streets. Balconies on the buildings shook noticeably. And from what we are hearing is there power outages. Mobile phone services have been affected and disrupted there. From what we are hearing from local residents is that they are being evacuated, and emergency services are working at full capacity at the moment.